The forbidden fruit wasn't an apple. So what was it? For thousands of years, humanity has believed a single, simple story. Adam and Eve, the Garden of Eden, the forbidden fruit, an apple. But what if I told you that everything you think you know about this story is not exactly the whole truth? The Bible never says it was an apple. So where did that idea come from? And if it wasn't an apple, then what was it? A fig, a grape, a psychedelic plant, or something even more mysterious? The truth has been buried for centuries. But in this video, we're going to uncover something that will shock you. Dear friends, welcome. This video will flow in sections, and each section will reveal a different insight and deeper meanings into those things you think you already know. Please keep an open mind and feel free to consult your Bible and ask questions at the end, because by the end of this video, you will be stunned at what you will discover and how a simple misconception can change the course of history forever. Now let's get to the first section. Section 1. The apple that never was. Let's begin with the most crucial detail, the Bible itself. Genesis 3:6 tells us that Eve took of the fruit and ate, and she also gave some to her husband, and he ate. But read it again. Did you catch it? There's no mention of an apple, not a single word. The original Hebrew text simply uses the word pori, which means fruit. That's it, nothing more. No description of its shape, color, or type. Just fruit. So where did we get the idea that it was an apple? The answer lies not in Scripture, but in an ancient mistranslation that changed the course of history. Section 2. The Latin mistranslation that altered the Bible. In the 4th century AD, a scholar named Saint Jerome was tasked with translating the Bible into Latin, creating what would later become the Vulgate, one of the most influential Bible translations in history. When he reached Genesis, he needed to translate the word fruit into Latin. And here's where things took a strange turn. In Latin, the word malum has two meanings. It can mean apple, but it can also mean evil. A coincidence? Perhaps. But think about it. The forbidden fruit is from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. The Latin word for evil and apple being the same created an irresistible wordplay. And from there, the idea spread like wildfire. Over the centuries, artists and scholars embraced this idea. They painted Adam and Eve with apples. They told stories of apples. And eventually, the world simply accepted it as fact. But if it wasn't an apple, then what was it? Section 3. The fig theory. A hidden biblical clue. There's a crucial clue hidden in plain sight, just a few verses after Adam and Eve eat the forbidden fruit. Genesis 3:7 tells us, "Then the eyes of both of them were opened, and they knew they were naked. And they sewed fig leaves together and made themselves loincloths." Now stop and think about that for a moment. Why fig leaves? Out of all the trees in the Garden of Eden, why did they specifically reach for fig leaves to cover themselves? Could it be because the fruit they had just eaten came from the same tree? Figs are one of the oldest cultivated fruits in human history, dating back over 11,000 years. They were abundant in the ancient Near East, right where Eden was believed to be. Even today, fig trees thrive in Israel, Mesopotamia, and Egypt. And in many ancient cultures, the fig was a symbol of fertility, wisdom, and divine knowledge. Is it possible that the forbidden fruit was a fig? Some scholars think so, but others point to another contender, one far more intoxicating. Section 4. The grape theory, the forbidden wine of Eden. Another theory suggests that the forbidden fruit wasn't something you eat, but something you drink. Could the real sin of Eden have been wine? Winemaking dates back thousands of years. Some of the earliest evidence of winemaking comes from Armenia, just north of Mesopotamia. But why would this matter? Because in Jewish tradition, wine is often associated with knowledge, transformation, and even divine judgment. After the flood, what was the very first thing Noah did? He planted a vineyard, made wine, and got drunk. In some mystical traditions, this is seen as Noah redeeming Adam's sin. Could it be that the real forbidden fruit wasn't a fruit at all, but an intoxicating drink? Section 5. The psychedelic theory. Was the forbidden fruit a hallucinogenic plant? But what if the forbidden fruit wasn't a fruit or a drink, but something far more mysterious? Some researchers believe the Garden of Eden story could be a metaphor for the discovery of consciousness through psychedelic plants. Throughout history, many cultures used psychoactive substances in religious rituals. The Amanita muscaria mushroom, for example, has been linked to divine experiences in Siberian and Hindu traditions. Some believe that Adam and Eve's eyes being opened was a reference to a mind-altering revelation. Could the real forbidden fruit have been a plant that expanded human perception? Something that granted knowledge, but at a cost? Section 6. The truth may never be known. So what was the real forbidden fruit? A fig, a grape, a mind-altering plant, or something else entirely? The truth is, we may never know, but one thing is certain: the apple was never part of the original story. Many theologians will say that the fruit's literal identity wasn't the key point. Rather, it was the symbol of disobedience, the threshold between naive innocence and the sobering awareness of moral complexity. Like a door to forbidden knowledge that no human was meant to walk through, that piece of fruit has come to signify everything from the burden of free will to the pain of regret. Yet there's also a darker undercurrent to this story, reminiscent of classic horror. There's a serpent, the personification of cunning persuasion, whispering, "You will not surely die." There's the looming sense that everything is about to change for the worse, and in one fleeting moment, the entire course of humanity is thrown into disarray. It's a scene that, if dramatized, fits every element of a suspenseful horror tale. The build-up, the deception, the moment of critical failure, and the horrifying realization that a boundary was crossed. At the heart of it all, the fruit is the catalyst. Whether it's an apple or a pomegranate, the story remains drenched in mystery. But the ramifications ripple throughout faith traditions everywhere. People grapple with guilt, redemption, and the question of why a loving creator would place a forbidden tree in the garden to begin with. For believers, it highlights free will. We're not puppets. We can choose to listen to divine guidance or be swayed by a cunning voice in the dark. But that was only the beginning. Early Christian thinkers had their own angles too. Some believed the fruit was metaphorical, representing the lure of illicit knowledge, or even an unholy union that opened the door to sin. Others insisted on a literal fruit, but disagreed on which type, occasionally referencing orchard trees common in the Middle East, like the apricot or even the date palm. Across these interpretations runs a common thread. The story is less about the fruit's physical form and more about the act of defiance. Each tradition ties that defining moment to humanity's moral awakening. As soon as we stepped into that forbidden realm, we awakened not just to knowledge, but to fear, shame, and the haunting sense that something precious had been lost. And that was far from the only viewpoint that would surface. Section 7. The deeper lesson. At its core, the forbidden fruit story underscores a universal human experience, the tug-of-war between our curiosity and the boundaries set for our own good. We've all felt that urge to peek behind the curtain, to do the one thing we're told not to do. For Adam and Eve, that step was catastrophic, causing them to lose their idyllic home and face mortality. From a faith perspective, this narrative is deeply tied to the concept of redemption. Yes, humanity fell, but there's also the notion that a higher power continuously calls us back. Even after the darkest decisions, when we realize the horror of our actions, there's still a path to grace, to forgiveness, and to a renewed relationship with the divine. That's the cornerstone of many faith teachings, reminding us that no wrong choice is beyond the reach of hope. When we stop fixating on the apple and consider the bigger picture, we see a tale about human nature, our flaws, our drive for understanding, and the consequences of seeking knowledge that might be better left alone. It's a cautionary story, but also a story of unending grace, giving every believer a reason to keep seeking wisdom while respecting the moral guidelines that protect us from ourselves. The challenge, then, is to let the story sink in on a personal level, because it's not merely about an ancient couple in a distant garden. It's about all of us, each day, standing before choices that can lift us up or pull us down. But there's one last layer we must consider. Section 8, Final Reflection and Hope. Re-examining the forbidden fruit and realizing it might not be an apple is more than an academic exercise. It's a call to look beyond the superficial interpretations we've inherited. Maybe the fruit was a fig, a grape, a pomegranate, or something entirely supernatural. Or perhaps it was always meant to remain mysterious, a symbol that transcends the physical world. The real power lies in how this story compels us to reflect on our own hearts. Even today, we face countless moments where we stand on the brink of a decision. Do we remain within safe boundaries or push beyond them? And when we push beyond, are we prepared for the consequences? Faith teaches that despite every mistake, there is mercy. That's the reassurance woven into the darker curtains of this story. Just as Adam and Eve received garments and a chance at life outside Eden, we too can find redemption no matter our failures. The door to spiritual renewal remains open, reminding us that while we may bear the weight of our missteps, we're never abandoned to face them alone. And this is why, after all these centuries, the question of the forbidden fruit's identity still sparks fascination. Perhaps it's because in engaging with the unknown, we learn more about ourselves, about our capacity for wonder, our vulnerability to temptation, and our search for meaning in a vast, sometimes terrifying world. Conclusion: it's not the apple that defined our downfall. It's our choice to break a divine boundary. For centuries, we've been so sure of that red piece of fruit, overlooking a swirl of ancient debates, cultural traditions, and theological insights that suggest otherwise. But that doesn't make the story any less impactful. If anything, it deepens the mystery and heightens our curiosity about the events that shaped us all. So what was the forbidden fruit? Perhaps we'll never know for sure, yet maybe the real revelation is that it doesn't matter. The narrative remains a potent reminder. Our thirst for forbidden knowledge can overshadow our obedience, leading us down paths fraught with danger. Still, even when the shadows deepen and fear grips our souls, faith offers a guiding hand. In that sense, the story of Eden is both a horror tale and a promise, an unsettling blend of caution and hope, reminding us that though we fall, we can still rise again. Have we been wrong all this time about that iconic apple? Quite possibly, but that's exactly the point of faith. Stepping beyond comfortable assumptions, questioning everything, and discovering that the truth is often more extraordinary and more redemptive than we ever imagined. And if the fruit was never an apple, imagine what else we might have misunderstood. What else awaits us beneath the surface of stories we thought we already knew? Remember, the moment you decide to explore the depths of an ancient account, you take the first step toward a renewed perspective on everything you believe. Maybe that's the real forbidden fruit, letting your curiosity drive you no matter where it leads, trusting that genuine faith will guide you back to light, no matter how deep you venture into the unknown. That, in the end, might be the greatest secret of all. What do you think the forbidden fruit was? Leave your theories in the comments. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into one of history's greatest mysteries, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you never miss a new video.